So looking ahead to the Premiership this weekend, here are 5 things to look out for. The first is Sheridan Shaqiri. Now, not since many moons ago, and I'm showing my age here, that Middlesbrough signed the likes of Juninho and Ravanelli as a signing for what are historically one of the less fashionable Premiership teams really caught my attention. Now, you could argue that Shaqiri's career, which has taken him from Bayern Munich to the Britannia via Inter Milan and the San Siro, is not going in the right direction. He's not had the best of times of late at these clubs, being a bit of a peripheral figure, but at the last World Cup in Brazil he was one of the absolute best players. He's only 23 years old and has his best years ahead of him, and he's a hugely exciting transfer if you're a Stoke fan. Mark Hughes is trying to walk the tightrope where you try and take a mid-level club and try and take it to the next level. But at the same time you have to make sure that you try and keep the unit cohesive and not destroy the cohesion that got you there in the first place. Shaqiri is a top-class player, and if Stoke can also get Bojan fit again, they have some really exciting attacking talent. Not many people have typically been too interested in watching Stoke games, I don't think, but I think that could be all set to change. They look a real team to watch this season. Now, separately and in their own rights, both Everton and Roberto Martinez have typically always gone through very slow starts in the Premiership. Everton under Davy Moyes and Wigan with Roberto Martinez. Put the two of them together, and I guess it should almost be expected. Last season was definitely like that, where even after the very expensive capture of Romelu Lukaku, Everton had a very disappointing campaign, only really getting into any kind of form in the spring. They do have a small squad, but it's a decent one. This season we've started with a very disappointing home draw against Watford. Leighton Baines is on the long-term injury list, and there's obviously doubts over John Stones. And this weekend they have a very tough away fixture at St Mary's, where they'll play a Southampton team which is fully up to speed. They've got the Europa League games under their belts. They're fit and firing. Everton need a good performance on the South Coast because they have City at home next weekend. This could be a very tough start to the season for Everton if they were to lose on the South Coast. Martinez needs to get a good performance from his players and get at least a draw. Now, the third thing this weekend we'll be looking for is West Ham United. Now, it's safe to say the Hammers took the Premiership by storm last weekend with their 2-0 win at the Emirates. Fantastic performance. But Slaven Bilic has a tough job ahead of him, trying to improve on Sam Allardyce's points total, and Premier League finish is tough, especially with the mandate to play attractive football. I have to say that I've always been a bit confused by the West Ham way. I don't really understand what it is. Sir Alex Ferguson, no less, even questioned it in one of his books. But there's no doubt that it was a bright start by West Ham, and a certain young 16-year-old, Reece Oxford, absolutely looked fantastic last week. Now, Mesut Ozil's not the biggest of players, admittedly, but to see him disappear from view entirely into Oxford's pocket was a little bit of a surprise. And ahead of him in midfield is Dimitri Payet. This is a player that conjured 134 chances last season, a record in any of the European leagues. Now, if West Ham are going to improve on Allardyce's tally last season, and they are going to play an attractive brand of football, these are guys that can certainly go a long way to helping them achieve that. It should be an entertaining game against Leicester, and if West Ham can get another 3 points here, this could be the sign of a very bright season for the Hammers. On Sunday we kick off with a London derby. You can almost refer to it as the handbags derby. If you go back to I think it's 2006 and have a look on YouTube at Pardew versus Wenger, there's clearly a bit of history and animosity between the two. Now, Pardew, of course, has had his critics along the way, but there's no doubt that he has done an excellent job at Palace so far. It looks like they've had a pretty effective summer in the transfer market, and Caballé certainly added real quality in there. Now, Arsenal, after so many bright predictions, are under the cosh. Last week's performance against West Ham was insipid at best, And they're going to go up against a Palace team with a rousing Selhurst support behind them and a team with their tails up. This could be a really, really fascinating fixture. Expect both sides to go at each other very, very hard. Maybe we play out an entertaining draw, but I think this could be one of the better games this weekend, and definitely not one to miss. Now, none of us ever really need an excuse to watch out for Jose Mourinho. Love him or hate him, he is of course pure box office. But whilst Mourinho is a serial winner, one of the things that's really characterised his career and really sets him apart from the likes of Sir Alex Ferguson is that he's never stuck around anywhere. The longest he's ever been at a club is just into his 4th season at Chelsea before he left. And one of the things that's always very telling about Mourinho is he always stage manages his exits. I mean, for instance, at Real Madrid, he knew long before they did that he was leaving that summer. Now, obviously, he's just signed a new 4-year contract at Chelsea and everything in the garden should be rosy. But his behaviour last weekend was very, very erratic and seemingly entirely disproportionate to what happened with his team. I mean, the fallout from this will probably blow over. I mean, it may just be a storm in a teacup. But the interesting part of this is Mourinho's behaviour. This is possibly a sign of some discontent at something else, possibly Chelsea's lack of transfer activity this summer. They've only numerically replaced Cech and Drogba, and they certainly haven't improved on their first 11. Whether Jose is frustrated with this, whether he's under some pressure, it'll be interesting to see what happens on Sunday. If Chelsea go ahead and win, probably everything's okay and we forget about it. But if Chelsea were to go 5 points behind City, with this furore in the background, it's going to be increasingly interesting to watch Mourinho's reaction and behaviour over the coming weeks. We could be in for an interesting season with Jose. So other than the goals and mistakes and dives that we'll no doubt be feasting upon this weekend, those are 5 subplots to look out for as we go into the weekend, and we'll take a look at things on Monday and see how it all went.